In the sprawling metropolis of Nexus City, a hub for humanity's scientific progress on the outer edges of explored space, Lieutenant Jake Harris meticulously organizes the day's security protocols at the Defense Corps' top-secret lab. This facility, known for pioneering potent serums, is under his careful watch. As Jake reviews the access logs at the front desk, the silent alarm buzzes, an unauthorized entry. Before he can react, the door swings open. In bursts a blue-skinned alien girl, her breaths short, her eyes wide with panic. "Please, you must help me," she pleads, glancing behind her as if expecting pursuers at any moment. Jake stands, instinctively reaching for his sidearm but stops, assessing her. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "My name is Marie," she gasps, stepping forward. "I was being chased. I didn't know where else to go. Your door was open." Conflicted, Jake lowers his hand from his weapon. "This is a restricted facility. You can't just barge in here." Despite his words, he studies her desperate expression, his training as a protector kicking in. At that moment, Dr. Alan Greaves, the lead scientist, emerges from the back room, alerted by the commotion. "Jake, what's going on here?" "Sir, she entered unauthorized, claims she was being chased," Jake explains, his voice firm yet filled with a hint of concern. Dr. Greaves approaches Marie, his demeanor more curious than alarmed. "Chased? By whom? Are you hurt?" Marie shakes her head, her gaze darting around the room, landing on a table with several vials. "No, but I—" Before she can finish, an intense quake shakes the building, throwing everyone off balance. In the confusion, Marie stumbles against the table, her hand knocking over a vial which shatters on the floor. She yelps as the liquid splashes onto her skin. "Damn it!" Dr. Greaves rushes over, pulling her away. "That serum isn't for—" Jake quickly joins, helping steady Marie. "What was that serum?" "It's experimental, enhances physical and mental capacities, but it's designed for humans, not—" Dr. Greaves trails off, eyeing Marie with a mixture of fear and fascination. Marie's skin begins to shimmer with a subtle glow, her breaths becoming more controlled, her eyes sharpening. "I feel different," she whispers, her voice steady yet awed. Dr. Greaves exchanges a look with Jake. "We need to quarantine her, study this interaction. This has never been tested on non-humans." Jake nods, then turns to Marie, his tone gentle. "We're going to take care of you, but you need to trust us. Can you do that?" Marie, still recovering from the shock of the serum and the quake, nods slowly. I trust you." As they escort her to the quarantine area, Jake feels a weight settle on his shoulders. The accidental encounter has just spiraled into a potential diplomatic crisis, or a scientific breakthrough. Glancing at Marie, he realizes that no matter what, his duty now extends to protecting this stranger, who might hold the key to a new understanding between their worlds. Marie sat in the quarantine room, her limbs feeling unusually light and her mind racing like never before. The glass between her and the observers was thick, a barrier that made her feel like a specimen under a microscope. Dr. Greaves, alongside a team of biologists and chemists, watched her closely, taking notes and murmuring among themselves. Jake stood a little apart from the scientists, his expression one of concern mixed with curiosity. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary, and yet dangerously unknown. "Marie, how do you feel?" Dr. Greaves asked through the intercom, his voice echoing slightly in the sterile room. "Stronger and clearer," Marie responded, her voice steady but filled with a hint of wonder. "Is this normal? What's happening to me?" "We're trying to figure that out," Dr. Greaves replied, his eyes not leaving the monitors displaying her vital signs. "The serum was designed to amplify human physiology. It seems to be interacting with your alien biology in ways we didn't anticipate." Jake watched her flex her fingers, each movement smooth and precise, almost too perfect. "Are there any pain or discomfort?" he asked, stepping closer to the glass. "No, nothing painful," Marie answered, looking directly at him. "Just different. I feel powerful." The room shook slightly again, a reminder of the ongoing instability in the sector, possibly due to mining operations or tectonic shifts common on this frontier planet. Jake glanced at Dr. Greaves. Could the serum be affecting her stability in any way? "It's unlikely," the doctor pondered, "but we'll monitor seismic activity alongside her symptoms to rule out any correlation." In the background, another scientist piped up, her eyes wide with excitement. "Look at this data. Her cognitive functions are off the charts. It's as if the serum is not just enhancing her, but evolving her." "Evolve," Dr. Greaves murmured, stroking his chin. Remarkable. We must document every change. Marie, we need to run some tests. No. The refusal came from Marie, sharp and unexpected. I'm not just a test subject. Jake's gaze snapped back to her. Marie, we need to understand what's happening to you. It's to ensure your safety and ours. Marie stood, her figure imposing even behind the glass. I understand, but I demand respect and dignity. I will cooperate, but not as an experiment, as a partner. Dr. Greaves exchanged a look with Jake, who nodded slightly. The power dynamics in the room had shifted palpably. Agreed, Dr. Greaves finally said. Let's start over, with consent. What would you be comfortable with, Marie? An explanation of what you intend to do before you do it, she stated firmly. And I want him, she pointed at Jake, to stay with me during the procedures. He hasn't treated me like a specimen. Jake felt a flush of warmth at her words. It was more than duty now. It was about trust, and perhaps the beginning of an unexpected alliance. As they prepared for the first round of non-invasive scans, the atmosphere in the lab shifted from clinical to collaborative. Jake stayed by Marie's side, explaining each step, ensuring she understood and consented to each procedure. Outside, the stars of the frontier space twinkled, indifferent to the small dramas unfolding on the planet's surface. Inside, human and alien worked together, tentatively bridging the vast expanse of their differences, driven by shared curiosity and an emerging sense of camaraderie. As the tests progressed, Jake couldn't shake off the unease that settled in the pit of his stomach. Every piece of data they gathered on Marie's transformation only deepened the mystery rather than providing clarity. While the scientists celebrated each breakthrough, Jake felt increasingly vigilant, aware that something bigger was at play. Late one night, while the lab was quiet, Marie approached Jake, who was reviewing the day's findings. Her expression was serious, her newfound abilities casting her in an almost ethereal light. Jake, I need to talk to you. Alone, she said, glancing around to ensure no one else was within earshot. He nodded and led her to a small observation room, away from the prying eyes of the security cameras. What's on your mind? Marie leaned against the cool metal wall. I overheard some of the scientists discussing how my data could be used. They're not just studying me to understand what happened. They mentioned weaponization, Jake. Jake stiffened, his worst fears beginning to materialize. Weaponization? Are you sure? Yes. They talked about enhancing soldiers, about using the serum's effects on me as a blueprint. This isn't just about helping me or understanding interspecies biology. Jake ran a hand through his hair, frustration and anger mingling with concern. I had my suspicions. Some things didn't add up. The secrecy, the military funding, the level of resources. We need to find out how deep this goes. Marie's eyes hardened with resolve. I can help. My senses are heightened, remember? I can hear things, see things that I couldn't before. Let's use that. Together, they devised a plan. Jake would access the higher security levels under the pretext of updating security protocols, while Marie would use her enhanced senses to eavesdrop on key conversations and access restricted areas of the digital archives. Their investigation led them to a series of encrypted files marked as top secret. With Marie's acute vision, she deciphered the passwords protecting the files. What they discovered confirmed their worst fears. A covert faction within the military, led by General Marcus Renfield, was planning to initiate Project Ascendancy, a program designed to create super soldiers using the serum, with or without volunteer subjects. The scope of this, it's monstrous, Jake muttered as he scrolled through the documents detailing experimental procedures and potential deployment scenarios. They're planning to start trials within the month. Marie's face was a mask of determination. We can't let this happen. This serum, it's powerful, but in the wrong hands it could be catastrophic. We need to expose them, Jake said, his voice low but fierce. But we have to be smart about it. Renfield is influential and dangerous. As they strategized their next steps, the lab's emergency alarm suddenly blared, slicing through the quiet of the night. Red lights flashed as security doors slammed shut. They know. They must have realized we accessed the files, Jake said, grabbing Marie's hand. We need to get out of here, now. With the lab on lockdown and every exit monitored, their escape seemed nearly impossible. But Marie's abilities gave them an edge. She led Jake through less traveled corridors, her keen senses detecting the faintest movements behind each door. Just as they reached a service exit, a group of armed guards rounded the corner. Without hesitation, Marie stepped forward, her eyes glowing with an intense blue light. "Stay behind me," she instructed Jake as she prepared to confront their pursuers with her newfound powers. The clash was inevitable, but Jake knew that together, their chances were better than ever. As Marie squared off against the guards, Jake readied himself to fight alongside her, determined to protect not just Marie, but the future she represented. Marie's confrontation with the guards was swift and startling. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to disarm the guards without causing serious harm, a testament to her control and newfound abilities. Jake watched in awe, realizing that Marie was not just an accidental subject of a military experiment, but a powerful ally in what was quickly escalating into a fight for their lives. "Come on, we've got to move," Jake urged, snapping out of his momentary shock. He grabbed her hand, leading her through the service exit into the dimly lit streets of Nexus City's industrial sector. The city was a sprawling labyrinth, but Jake knew its shadows well. He had grown up on these streets, understanding the network of alleys and back routes like the back of his hand. They needed a plan, a safe haven to regroup and figure out their next move. "We're heading to the old mercantile district," Jake said, his voice low as they dodged through narrow passages. "It's mostly abandoned at night, but I know a guy there who can hide us." Marie, still adjusting to her heightened senses, nodded. The city's cacophony was overwhelming, but she trusted Jake implicitly. The bond they had formed, born of shared danger and mutual respect, was solidifying with each step they took together. As they neared the district, Jake's communicator buzzed discreetly. He glanced at the message and frowned. "It's Ethan, Captain Ethan Cross. He's an old war buddy turned freelancer. Says he's heard things, knows we're in trouble, and is willing to help." Marie sensed Jake's hesitation. "Can we trust him?" "With my life," Jake affirmed. "He's saved it more than once." They met Ethan in a derelict warehouse, the kind of place that only those with a need to disappear would know about. Ethan was a rugged figure, his face marked by the scars of battles past, but his eyes were sharp and assessing. "Jake, who's your friend?" Ethan asked, his gaze flicking over Marie's unusual appearance. "This is Marie," Jake introduced, watching Ethan's reaction closely. "She's the reason we're here. There's a military experiment, and she's caught in the middle of it." Ethan listened intently as Jake explained everything, from Marie's accidental exposure to the serum to their discovery of General Renfield's plans for Project Ascendancy. "So, the rumors are true," Ethan mused, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "Renfield's been stockpiling resources for something big. Didn't realize it was this big." "What do you need from me?" Ethan asked, already walking over to a console cluttered with various gadgets. "We need to get off planet," Jake said decisively. "Renfield will have the spaceports watched. We need another way out." Ethan nodded, tapping into his network. "I might have a few options. Smugglers, old contacts who owe me favors, but it's going to be risky." "Everything about this is risky," Marie interjected, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. "We don't have a choice." As they formulated their escape plan, the trio knew that the road ahead was fraught with peril. Nexus City was no longer safe, and every moment they stayed increased the risk of capture. But with Ethan's connections and Marie's abilities, they had a fighting chance. The plan was set. Under the cover of darkness, they would move to the outskirts of the city, where a small, unregistered shuttle was hidden. From there, they would chart a course to the outer colonies, places beyond the immediate reach of Renfield's influence. As they prepared to leave, Jake looked at Marie and Ethan, his allies in what had become not just a battle for survival, but a struggle for the truth. "Let's do this," he said, a determined glint in his eye. Together, they stepped out into the night, the stars above obscured by the city's perpetual glow, their journey into the unknown just beginning. Under the veil of darkness, Jake, Marie, and Ethan made their way to the outskirts where the old, unregistered shuttle awaited them. The craft was hidden beneath camouflage nets and debris, a relic of Ethan's past operations that had long since fallen off official records, an ideal ghost ship for their covert escape. As they approached, Ethan briefed them on the mechanics and the route. "She's not pretty, but she'll get us where we need to go. We'll make a quick jump to the Deneb sector, lay low on the trading stations, and then head to the Haven colony. It's a settlement of sorts for those who don't quite fit the mold of regular society. Rebels, thinkers, ex-military who didn't agree with the direction things were headed." Marie, absorbing every detail, felt a flicker of hope. Haven sounded like a place where she could find allies, perhaps even help in their fight against Renfield's plans. As they boarded the shuttle, Her senses tingled, alert to any danger that might still be lurking. The journey was tense, with each jump through hyperspace a reminder of the stakes they were playing for. Upon arrival at Haven Colony, they were greeted not by the chaos of Nexus City, but by a serene, if rugged landscape dotted with structures that blended into the natural environment. The colony thrived on anonymity, a perfect hideout for those on the run. Ethan led them to a central complex where the Council of Haven met. It was a group of seasoned leaders, each with a history that had taught them to distrust central authority and to value the freedom Haven provided. "We need sanctuary, and possibly your help," Jake began, stepping forward to speak to the council. "We come bearing information about a threat not just to us personally, but to any who value freedom over oppression." The council listened intently as Jake and Marie shared their story, the evidence of Project Ascendancy, and the potential misuse of the Serum to create an army of enhanced soldiers. The implications were clear. If Renfield succeeded, no place, not even Haven, would be beyond his reach. One of the council members, a former science officer named Tala, leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "You realize what you're describing could lead to war?" "Yes," Marie responded, her voice firm. "That's why we need to stop it before it progresses any further." Tala nodded slowly. "Haven was built by those who fled tyranny. We have resources, connections. You'll have our support. But understand, your fight is now ours as well." With the council's agreement, Jake, Marie, and Ethan began to plan. Haven could serve as their base, providing them with the means to gather more evidence and allies. Meanwhile, Marie's abilities continued to evolve, her understanding of human technology deepening, offering them unique advantages in their upcoming struggles. Days turned into weeks as they prepared. Marie trained with some of the colony's defenders, learning to harness her new capabilities in tactical scenarios. Jake worked alongside Ethan, tapping into networks of information and support that spanned the galaxy. But as their preparations advanced, so too did the sense of looming confrontation. Surveillance drones began appearing near Haven, a sign that Renfield's forces were closing in. The colony braced for a battle, fortifying their defenses and rallying their people. Marie, once a stranger to this galaxy's conflicts, found herself at the heart of a looming war, not just fighting for her survival, but for the ideals Haven stood for. As the sun set over the rugged terrain of the colony, Jake looked over at Marie, her figure silhouetted against the fading light. "Whatever comes," he said, "we'll face it together." Marie nodded, her resolve as strong as the bonds they had formed. Together, they stood ready to defend their new home, aware that the challenge they faced was about to escalate beyond anything they had anticipated. The tension in Haven Colony thickened like the heavy clouds on the horizon. A storm was coming. The surveillance drones that buzzed over the colony had multiplied, a clear indication that General Renfield's forces were on their way. It was only a matter of time before they would attempt to seize control. In the central command room, Jake, Marie, Ethan, and the leaders of Haven gathered around a large holotable displaying the surrounding sectors. Tala pointed to several strategic locations where Renfield's forces might land. "We have limited resources," Tala began, her voice steady despite the grim outlook. "But what we lack in firepower, we make up for in terrain knowledge and tactical advantage." Jake nodded, looking over to Marie, who had been quiet, deep in thought. "Marie's abilities could be pivotal in the field. We've trained, but the real thing is different. Are you ready for this?" he asked, concern lacing his tone. Marie met his gaze, her blue eyes resolute. "I'm ready. I have to be. This is about more than just survival now. It's about protecting what we believe in." As the colony braced for impact, Ethan took charge of the aerial defenses, coordinating with pilots and setting up anti-aircraft positions. Marie and Jake joined the ground forces, taking positions in the rugged outcrops surrounding Haven. The first sign of the assault came as a low rumble in the distance, growing louder as a squadron of Renfield's ships broke through the atmosphere. The air crackled with tension, and then, with the deafening booms of the colony's anti-aircraft guns firing towards the approaching ships. Ethan's voice crackled over the comms. "Contact on all fronts. They're coming in hot. Hold your positions." Marie felt a surge of adrenaline as she watched enemy troops deploy from the landing crafts. She stood firm beside Jake, who was issuing orders to his unit, his face a mask of concentration. The battle erupted into chaos, with Haven's defenders unleashing a barrage of fire towards the advancing troops. Marie used her enhanced senses to anticipate enemy movements, dodging blasts and returning fire with precision. Beside her, Jake fought with a fierce determination, rallying their unit forward. "Push them back!" Jake shouted as they took cover behind a rock formation. Marie nodded, her hands steady as she took aim. Suddenly, a wave of enemy drones swept over them, firing down. Marie looked up, her eyes narrowing. Concentrating, she unleashed a pulse of energy, a new ability she had discovered during her training. The pulse knocked several drones out of the sky, crashing into the enemy lines. Cheers erupted from the Haven fighters as they witnessed Marie's power, a beacon of strength that spurred them on. The battle waged on, hours stretching as each side gained and lost ground. As night fell, the flicker of fires and the glow of blasts illuminated the battlefield. Jake and Marie found themselves back to back, surrounded by a squad of Renfield's elite forces. "Looks like we're in the thick of it," Jake said, checking his ammo. Marie smiled grimly, readying herself. "Let's show them what we're made of." With a fierce cry, they charged forward, fighting with a desperate intensity. Each blow they struck was a statement. Each enemy they downed a step towards the future they were fighting to protect. As dawn broke over the battered landscape of Haven, a weary silence fell. The colony had held its ground, though at a cost. Jake and Marie stood among the survivors, their bodies bruised but spirits unbroken, knowing that while this battle was over, the war was just beginning. Their resolve hardened, ready to face whatever challenges Renfield would throw at them next. In the aftermath of the fierce battle, the air at Haven Colony was thick with the smell of scorched earth and burning debris. The survivors surveyed the damage, tending to the wounded and salvaging what they could from the wreckage. Despite the heavy losses, the spirit of resistance among the colony's defenders remained unbroken, fueled by their victory against Renfield's initial assault. Jake, Marie, and Ethan gathered in what remained of the command center, maps and digital screens flickering with intermittent power. The mood was somber, yet determined as they prepared for what they knew would be Renfield's next move, a final, decisive strike. "We've shown them that we won't be easy targets," Jake said, his voice gravelly from exhaustion and smoke. "But Renfield won't back down now, not when he's this close." Marie nodded, her face set in resolve. "He'll come with everything he's got. We need to be ready. We need to end this." Ethan, who had been silently checking communications, looked up. "There's more. Intel suggests Renfield might use the Serum-enhanced super soldiers this time. If he does, they'll be tougher, faster, like nothing we've faced before." The gravity of the situation weighed heavily in the room. Marie's thoughts raced, her strategic mind working through scenarios. "If we can't match their strength, we'll outsmart them. We'll use the terrain to our advantage, set traps, and strike where they least expect it." Plans were quickly drawn up, with Marie and Jake taking the lead on ground tactics while Ethan coordinated aerial surveillance and support. The colony mobilized, every able-bodied person preparing for the confrontation that would determine their fate. Days later, as the early warning systems blared, Renfield's forces appeared on the horizon, a formidable fleet that blotted out the sun. Ground troops, mechanized units, and the dreaded super soldiers advanced in tight formation. The defenders of Haven took their positions, hearts pounding but ready to defend their home to the last. As the enemy approached, Jake and Marie led a small team on a flanking maneuver, moving stealthily through the jagged terrain. The battle erupted into chaos as Haven's traps and ambushes were sprung. Explosions rocked the landscape, throwing Renfield's troops into disarray. Marie, harnessing her full abilities, moved through the battlefield like a force of nature, her attacks precise and devastating. Amidst the tumult, Jake spotted Renfield commanding his forces from the rear, guarded by his elite soldiers. Seizing the moment, he signaled to Marie, and together they fought their way toward him. As they approached, Renfield, seeing the tide turning, took up arms himself. The confrontation was intense, with Jake and Renfield exchanging blows. Renfield, enhanced by another version of the Serum, was a formidable opponent, but Jake's determination to protect his new home and family gave him the edge. Meanwhile, Marie engaged the super soldiers, her understanding of the Serum's effects, allowing her to exploit their weaknesses. Each move she made was calculated, turning the super soldiers' strengths into vulnerabilities. The battle reached its climax as Jake finally overcame Renfield, disarming and incapacitating him. With their leader defeated, the morale of Renfield's forces crumbled. Marie, seeing the shift, rallied the colony's fighters to push back with renewed vigor. As the dust settled, the survivors of Haven emerged victorious. The threat of Renfield and his ambition to dominate using the Serum was quelled. His capture marked the end of the battle, but not the end of their challenges. In the quiet aftermath, as they tended to their wounded and mourned their fallen, Jake and Marie stood side by side, their bond stronger than ever. They had saved Haven, but the wider war for freedom against those who would use power for control was just beginning. They were ready to lead the charge, whatever it might bring. As the sun rose over the battered landscape of Haven Colony, the light brought with it a sense of renewal and the beginning of a new era. The colony's defenders, though weary and scarred from the battle, gathered to assess their victory and the heavy cost it had demanded. General Renfield, now a prisoner, symbolized the crumbling of a once feared faction that sought to use power for domination. In the heart of the colony, amidst the ruins that still smoldered, Jake, Marie, and Ethan stood together with the leaders of Haven. They discussed the future, not just of their small world, but of the broader implications of their victory. The defeat of Renfield's forces had sent ripples across the sectors, sparking hope among other oppressed groups that change was possible. "We've been given a unique opportunity," Jake addressed the crowd, which had gathered to hear their plans. "Not just to rebuild, but to reshape our future. We can establish Haven as a beacon for freedom and a testament to what we can achieve when we stand united." Marie, who had become more than just a survivor, but a leader in her own right, stepped forward. "This serum, which brought me here under such extraordinary circumstances, will be safeguarded. With the Council's guidance, we'll ensure it's used for healing and enhancement under strict ethical regulations. We must learn from the past, not repeat it." Ethan nodded, his strategic mind already mapping out the logistics of their new objectives. "We'll need to strengthen our alliances and create a network of mutual support. Haven can be a hub for technology and refuge, but we'll also need to defend it against those who might still seek to claim what we have fought so hard to protect." The Council agreed to form a new governance body, one that included representatives from various sectors of the colony's population, ensuring a diverse and balanced approach to leadership. Marie, with her unique perspective as both an alien and a hero of the battle, was appointed as an ambassador, tasked with forging alliances beyond Haven. As the days passed, the colony slowly transformed. The ruins were cleared, new structures erected, and systems put in place to support a thriving community. The scars of battle remained, a reminder of their struggles, but also a testament to their resilience. Jake took on a role he never anticipated, commanding the colony's defense forces. Beside him, Marie worked to bridge the gap between humans and other alien races, her story serving as a powerful example of coexistence and mutual respect. One evening, as they stood watching a sunset that painted the sky with hues of orange and purple, Marie turned to Jake. "Do you think we'll ever see a day when our battles are just stories we tell our children?" she asked, her voice hopeful yet wistful. Jake took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin, the strength that had carried them through the darkest times. "I believe so," he replied, "and we'll tell them not just to remember the past, but to inspire them to build even better futures." As the stars began to twinkle in the twilight of Haven, Jake and Marie knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But they also knew they had found a home, a purpose, and a community that looked to them for leadership. Together, they would navigate whatever came next, safeguarding the peace they had fought so valiantly to achieve and nurturing the seeds of hope that had been planted in the soil of their hard-won freedom. With Haven as their foundation, they faced the future not as survivors of war, but as architects of peace.